Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the co-founders of Another Nine, Ethan Grob and Brett Jewell. Before I bring on today's guest, here are three things you're going to learn from today's episode. Number one, how two brothers-in-law turn their love of golf into a 24/7 self-service indoor golf experience. Second, the unique way they validated demand before even signing their first lease. And finally, how their proprietary software, A9 OS, automates everything. Guys, how are you today?
Very well.
Doing great.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Well, all right, let's start out. Tell everybody, what is Another Nine?
Yeah, so Another Nine is 24/7 self-service automated indoor golf facility. We started with one in Cincinnati where we're growing nationwide, and really our whole thing is about bringing more access to the game of golf. There's so many people who they feel like outsiders, they feel uncomfortable on the driving range, at the golf course on the first tee, maybe they're just getting into it. Our space is private, so it's private suites inside. There's not open bays or half stalls, half walls, anything like that. So all of our members and all of our guests can practice and play in the comfort of a private suite at Another Nine.
Brett, you are speaking my language.
I mean, it came out of solving our own problem. Like I'm not a good golfer. I love to do it. It's so fun. It's the most frustrating game in the world. And I hate the feeling of being on the first tee, the clubhouse is watching you. And I just rolled up 5 minutes ago in my car. So I'm cold and stiff. I duck hook it into the woods. And I'm sure in my head, everyone's like, oh, we got 4 hours behind this guy. Like, oh, buckle up. Like it's so anxiety inducing. It sometimes just makes me not want to play as much.
All right. So before we talk more about Another Nine, take me back to before you started this brand. What were you guys doing and what led you to creating this company?
Well, both of us were in different corporate roles at the time. Brett and I were actually we're brothers-in-law as well, which is somewhat of a unique dynamic here. I actually met Brett at his wedding. So
true story.
I firmly cemented myself as part of the family when I sat at the head table when we first met.
Nice.
You know, we were on a golf trip with our father-in-law, our other brother-in-law, kind of lamenting about the fact that, hey, this is super fun. I wish we got to do this a lot more, but young kids and busy professional lives, we don't have the opportunity to do it. So, you know, when we first started, our intention was, let's open one of these. Maybe we'll open 5 or 10 around Cincinnati. Let's see what this could do. Maybe we retire early. And not only did we realize that we built a very compelling experience for guests, but we built basically a franchise system for ourselves. And so that's what led us to step away from corporate. But, you know, my background, I started in consulting, spent about 10 years with the Kroger family of companies in retail and technology. And then my last 3 or so in corporate America with a grocery delivery company. So it's always been around taking a digital experience and then merging that with the physical space. And this is just a new application, I think, of those skills.
A lot of my background has been in consumer goods. I worked for over a decade for a footwear company, bringing new products to life, entering new markets, acquiring other companies, and really love getting to use some of those skills that I use there, but also exercise some other muscles that, you know, weren't part of the scope of that job in my role here at Another Nine.
Okay, so how do you guys end up coming together to start the company, though? I mean, you're both going to leave your jobs, and was your father-in-law thinking you guys were crazy to do this? Like, what was the family saying? And this is your first, I assume this is really your first entrepreneurial experience, and now you're doing this together.
Yeah, I would say, aside from our wives, who have been incredibly supportive from day one, shout out to Courtney and Kelly, the rest of the family, though, yes, absolutely thought we were crazy. You know, I had a couple of entrepreneurial ventures over the past 15 years or so. This has certainly been the one that is the most successful at this stage for sure. But I think, you know, it started as we tested the waters in Cincinnati. We built a very simple landing page, acquired the brand, did the things we needed to do to register that. And we just put out $50 worth of ads on Facebook and Instagram. And it was just basically 3 bullets of what this experience was going to be, and the name Another Nine and an email form. And if we saw any sort of interest in capturing any of these email addresses, we knew there was something there, enough to go off of. Now, most people would say probably not enough to just go sign a lease, but that's what we did. And so, we went with the first location, and we kind of just went all in. That was our original thesis, was we can do this, and this location can be differentiated and successful without needing to walk away from our day jobs at the time.
Yeah. Early on, I mean, yes, we were building stuff and we were doing a lot of things for the first time, but early on a day-to-day basis, operating the facility, it wasn't like a heavy lift necessarily for us. I mean, we were still able to devote our full time to our jobs, had plenty of family time. Yes, we spent a little bit of time there, and we loved being able to go there and play golf ourselves, but it's not like there was a crazy amount of heavy lifting for us to do once we had that first facility open.
Right.
It's probably more so once we dove into franchising and being the franchisor and standing up that operation. That's certainly been more time consuming, but also super rewarding.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to get into franchising in a bit, but I want to go back to sort of the premise of this business that you realized, Brett, you wanted to make sure that this brand allowed people to have the privacy of playing, right, without people watching them play and, chunk the ball and everything that we all do. What were the other important elements of this company that you wanted it to be besides having privacy?
Yeah, it needed to make sense for normal people. So much of golf, it's the golf industry has had its own standards for, I don't know, a couple hundred years. There's so much that feels exclusive. We all know it's very expensive. I mean, frankly, it's kind of an old white man's game, and it's growing so much in popularity. More people want to get into it, and they're kind of afraid that they don't feel welcome at certain golf courses because they don't know all the unwritten rules. They don't feel like they can go play as often as they want because it's so expensive. They might not even be sure about buying the first set of clubs because, well, that costs $1,000 for a starter set of clubs, or if not more. So we wanted something that was accessible, and that kind of drove the having a public option for people and not just relying on memberships. We want golf for everybody. We don't care who they are, where they're from, or what they're like. They want to play golf, and it's hard for them to find that at a course. So we want them to be able to supplement that here. And it just made sense not to, if we're going to be golf for everyone, we can't be exclusive and only rely on memberships, or it can't just be this bar and restaurant thing that also has golf, because that's a turnoff for a lot of people. What we found in our research and talking to people is that the demand is there. People just want to play more golf. And so our goal is to create a space where they can do that comfortably in an environment that they want to keep coming back to.
And a big thing that was, originally we had thought, how do we make this the most flexible experience? Yeah. And that's where the 24/7 aspect comes in as well, right? Because golf is, Brett hit on all the points. It's notoriously difficult and time consuming and expensive, but even for people that can fit it into their lives, most people can't play a full 18 every single day. And for us, you can play 18 in an hour, right? So if that means going after my kids go to bed at 10 p.m., sure, we've got the time, we've got the space, and it's an elevated environment for you to go play. We have guys there at 4 o'clock in the morning and use it as their gym time, right? So it's really not, it's not just about accessibility in terms of you don't have to be a member to come play. It's an accessible price point. It's also accessible in terms of fitting into your life versus, you trying to fit into the standards of golf.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you're like the anytime fitness for golf.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically.
Which is,
our first location is actually next door to an anytime fitness. It
is. Perfect. You can work out and play a round of golf, at 3 a.m.
Yeah. We do share members in some cases.
That's awesome. Okay. And then the other part of the business is about simplicity, right? So there's not a bar or restaurant component. This is really, really a simple concept for people to, when we get to franchising, this was important for you guys because you work in your corporate job. So you wanted to really focus on the simplicity of a golf simulator. And how many bays were in your first location?
We have 3, and it's not enough.
So the next one will have 6.
Yeah.
But you hit on it exactly right. The first of all, the simplicity of the operation was really important. You can't pull off 24/7. And, we talk about this all the time. How do you create a level of hospitality without having someone staffed? Very difficult to do when you have all the complexity that comes along with running a bar or restaurant. You wouldn't likely be able to open 24/7. But for us, we didn't want golf to feel like an afterthought. We're not a bar or restaurant that also has golf. Everything is centered around a very realistic, immersive, elevated indoor golf experience.
Okay.
And, by the way, there are plenty of neighboring bars and restaurants that would be happy to have your business, and you're welcome to bring that right into your suite with us.
What were some of the biggest challenges when you were starting out and you had to overcome?
There's a long list. I would say, first time, we'd been around brick and mortar, but doing it for yourself is obviously very different. So I think the biggest challenges came in sort of the order of operations. Okay, we signed a lease. Now what? Okay, well, we got to demo this space. We need to find an architect. We need to find a contractor. We need to go through permitting. You can't, contrary to what I thought was true, you could just sign a lease and go in there with a sledgehammer and start demoing.
The city doesn't like that.
The city doesn't like it. So, I think there was a lot of things that we were just figuring out for the first time, and that's what made it difficult. And that's one of the things we've been really focused on, is documenting all of that. We talk to our earliest franchisees and we say, we were exactly in your shoes, 18 months ago. So we know all the pain points, and what we've really been doing is try to shrink that time and complexity. But I would say that was the most difficult for me, was just not knowing what comes next in the real estate process.
Yeah, the not having the operational playbook of knowing what's dependent on what other thing, what order of operations we need to do things. That was huge, and I think that's a huge benefit really for any franchisee in any franchise system.
Sure.
Is having that. That also was just being unsure. Like when we got close to opening, just being unsure of like, is everything we did enough? Like, did we do enough marketing? Were we doing the right things? Do they know that they're coming here? What's the best ad strategy? How do we deploy our money? How, we've spent so much to build this out. Is it really worth an extra few $1,000s for, this thing or that thing? And it was, fortunately for us, the response early on was great and very validating and above and beyond, I think, what we expected. But especially getting into it the very first time, like, okay, doors are open. Like, is anybody going to show up?
Right.
And did anybody show up?
They did. The response was immediate and overwhelming. And I think it does speak to the full spectrum of different types of golfers that this experience caters to, right? It's a single space, but it can be used for a lot of different golf occasions. So the very first, we tell this story all the time. The very first reservations, Brett and I were still hanging up some artwork in the hallways, and we had our first reservation. 2 guys in a pickup truck rolled up. It's this Friday morning around 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Case of Busch Light. They were ready to go for their Friday morning round. And then, 30 minutes later, 2 guys in a Mercedes, business casual, 1 bag of clubs between them, and they were just checking it out, and they were in the suite next door. And so, one, that was, okay, people are coming here. Yeah. This is going to work at least for today. But I think, what we did to tell the story behind the scenes of the brand and behind the scenes with construction and all the progress, we kind of built up a little bit of anticipation. And so the community really showed up for that first couple weeks and beyond, of course. Yeah. But I think far exceeded our expectations for those early days, to the point where I think it was day 2, booked for 12 hours. And we were like, oh, we do not have enough space here.
Yeah.
This
wow. So you guys knew you were onto something pretty big quickly then.
Yes.
Yeah. That response was overwhelming and jam-packed days full of people coming, giving us great feedback.
And arguably the worst time to open an indoor golf business. This was in March in Cincinnati. So, right at the tail end of indoor golf season, as people are getting ready to head back outside for the spring. And still, I think we very quickly realized, I think we were maybe a month in and we were already making plans for the second.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's such a great testament, though, to the company, that you started out kind of in the spring and you hit the ground running hard. People coming in, you must have been thinking like, holy cow, if we're getting people in the spring, what is this going to be like next winter?
Exactly.
That's super exciting.
We thought, well, maybe it's double what we did, and it ended up being 3x or more.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. I've got something running through my head though. As a fellow founder, I'm thinking, here's my first freak out. As if I'm with you guys, what happens the very first time you have a booking at like 3 a.m.? Are you guys sleeping?
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part. I mean, maybe in those early days, I was staying up a little bit later just to make sure. I would be like, okay, there's new people coming. It's the first time I'm going to watch the camera and check their reaction and make sure all the tech and everything worked fine. Now it was nice to just see people be like, oh, this place is sick. Like we need to come back. Oh, they got a mini fridge. Oh, I can BYOB, whatever. But yeah, early, the all of the tech, all the integrations. It's so seamless that there's very little that could go wrong, and very, very little that ever does. And we're obviously quick to fix any issue for any guest that's having, I don't even know what it would be, as far as a technical problem. I mean, most of the time it would be user error, but yeah, it really, it really wasn't that stressful. It was great to be able to lay down, go to sleep, and you wake up and you're like, oh, 3 people were here at 5 a.m. this morning. Like that's awesome. Great. We made money while we slept.
Wow. That's great. Is there ever a time where there's staff at the facility?
We've never, well, we do have every once in a while, we contract out cleaning or things like that, but we don't have any staff on site.
Yeah, not
ever.
Regularly.
All right. If you can go back to when you first started, what would be something you do differently now?
I mean, I would have an architect lined up before I sign a lease. I'd have an example floor plan ready. We would have construction drawings ready on day one. So as soon as we execute the lease, we're ready to get those approved, and we'd have the GC ready and submit for permits quicker. And
we just wasted a ton of time.
Yeah.
And I think that still gets to us. I wish we had the playbook we have now when we first opened. And I mean, we would have opened 3 months sooner, at least. But I certainly would do that differently. And, hindsight's always 20/20, but I would say, had we done things differently, I don't know that we would have landed on the same result. And so, if I could go back and do it again, I don't know that I would. Now, at the time, my stress levels or something like that pre-opening, maybe those would be would have subsided a bit. But I think, you did the best. Everybody, you do the best you can with whatever the next action is, and then you learn from it. And that has seemed to work well for us so far.
Yeah, we that time, especially getting the place open, I mean, we were very scrappy. We learned to move really quick and do some hard things quickly and do them well. And even I think having some of that experience early on kind of guided how we view even like our internal company culture.
Yeah.
Like we move fast, we do hard things, we make it happen, we figure things out. And I think a lot of that, we first did that together on that first location, and we're taking that with us.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's move on to franchising. So you got the location up and running in 2023, the first one. Who brings up the word franchising? Where does that come into play?
We had talked about it when I think it was probably April, and we said, hey, how do we think about, does this expand nationally? We had thought about franchising. I don't know if I should say this on a franchising podcast, but originally we were kind of opposed to it because of what I had known at the time about franchising. And it turns out, I mean, I was very wrong. We've obviously learned a lot about, so there's so many benefits in a good franchise system, and the opportunity for us to enable that business ownership and skipping all of the guesswork and mistakes that we did the first time, that was a really exciting opportunity for us. But really, I would say, 2 big things happened. One, we got some reach out from some folks that had started a different franchise a couple years prior and were interested in what we were building and ultimately became some of our advisors. So that was one thing that really got us to think about, hey, maybe we are building a franchise system here. Mm-hmm. And the other one was interest from prospective franchisees. So we didn't have, there was no form on the website for franchising. We didn't have an FDD, but we were getting people were filling out our contact form. The first one we got was in Anchorage, Alaska, and they had seen one of our Instagram reels, and they went to the website and said, "Hey, I'd really love to open one of these in Alaska. Are you guys franchising?" And you're like, "No, but hold on, because maybe we will be soon." So almost happened organically.
Yeah, I mean, early on, probably, I don't know, 20 or so leads like that, or just organically through social media. They come through the website. Ethan had like a LinkedIn post that kind of went mini viral, like had a lot of people noticing that. And for like the more, it just kept coming up more and more, like, you should franchise this, you should franchise this. And that's what really,
I mean, we listened to customers. A lot of our, some of our membership offerings or some of the design elements inside our suites are because we listened to our guests and implemented those really quickly. And so this really is no different. There was demand or ideas from, potential franchisees, and that ultimately helped us design the system that's now resonating with those same people.
Sure. Ethan, what were some of your perceptions about franchising that kind of led you to thinking maybe this isn't right for us? Because I want to preface by saying, believe it or not, I know this is the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast, and I, have been around franchising for 20 plus years, but I'm actually not pro franchising. I'm pro business. And I just think franchising is just one way of expanding your concept. So I want you to know that you're not talking to somebody who's just everything has to be franchised. I absolutely believe most people should not franchise their business. So what were some of your perceptions about franchising that made you think maybe this isn't a good idea?
Well, I think personally, I have always been, I think I'm really motivated by the start, that 0 to 1 phase, I think is really exciting for me. And so I think I felt that franchising, it maybe doesn't give you that opportunity, which again, I don't know that that statement's actually true anymore now being in our seat. I think the biggest thing was less about a perception thing and more about my own doubts about the value that a franchisor can provide. And then having gone through the experience, having built our technology from scratch, having to figure out our operations, basically on the fly. After doing all of that and having that experience, I now very firmly understand the benefit that a franchisor can provide, a good franchisor, to make sure that that is where the value comes in. It's not, you don't have to do that 0 to 1 phase. And that's fun and exciting. That's also where a lot of businesses fail. And so if you can skip past that stage and get into, running the playbook, then it's a very different equation, I think. So I've converted my perspective a little bit.
Cool. Brett, what were your thoughts about franchising early on?
I feel like I was almost kind of ignorant to it. Like now I can't go anywhere without thinking like, oh, that would be a great franchise brand, or like, oh, there's another one. Oh, we know who represents them. Like now it's just ubiquitous. I almost every business seems like a franchise to me, but then I don't know. I didn't think about it that much. I knew the brands that were out there, but I didn't think so much of the dynamics of, is it a corporate owned location? Is it a franchise? How does all that stuff work? So the more and more we learned about it and researched it, the more open I certainly became to it. And then even just as we learned more about the golf industry and the opportunity that's out there, we thought, oh, how cool would it be if we had, I don't know, 50 locations out in the US someday? Okay. Well, if it's all corporate owned, how long is it going to take for us to do that? And do we miss out on the opportunity because this is such a hot area and because it's a land grab? And would it be better for us to supply that playbook that we needed so badly to franchisees, help us grow the brand, scale it nationally, and we could have someone in California next year, and we wouldn't have gotten there in the amount of time. If we were going to own all of it ourselves, I mean, it would have been a massive fundraise. It's a huge bet. It just didn't add up for us for that to be the right route for us to grow this responsibly.
And for the type of business this is, people ask us all the time, who is your ideal franchisee, or who are the candidates you're looking at? What's their profile? And we honestly struggle to answer that question because of the kind of semi-passive nature of this operation. One of our franchisees is a firefighter. One of them is a director of finance that is maintaining their day job. One of them was an early stage founder and had a successful exit. So we've talked to nurses, lawyers, doctors, first responders. I think the opportunity for us to, we have a conversation. His name's David, and David said, "Hey, I have been taking some business classes. I've been looking to start my own business. I don't really want to start from scratch, but I wish I want to dip my toe and eventually step out of, what I've been doing historically in my career." And I think the motivating factor for us, because that's exactly where we were. We were like, I think we're going to keep our day jobs, but we'll see how this goes. The opportunity to kind of create that opportunity for others is also really exciting for us. And owning 50 locations across the country ourselves, I'm sure that would be great. But seeing other people do that and we get to work with them, that's, equally as exciting for us.
Sure. Okay. So we've got total flexibility on who could be successful, right, in opening, or who we're really attracting to a brand. But Brett, I'm going to ask you, what do you think are some of the attributes that a franchisee needs to have in order to be successful with Another Nine?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is in line with what we value just internally and how we work. Like, we want someone that's communicative. We want someone that does hard things and is able to confront things head on. It's not easy to own any business, or operate any business. It's not the easiest thing in the world to open up a franchise location. Now, it's very rewarding, but we need someone who is able to do hard things. Someone who, they're outcome oriented. They're open to hearing, our advice,
and giving it.
Yeah. So when we talk about communication, like, we want them giving us feedback. We don't want them shying away from that. Same thing for our employees. We want them to give us feedback because we want to be better. We want their ideas. We want to collaborate with them. So, if a franchisee has a better idea for something that would help everyone across the system, great. Best idea wins. Like, we want that. And we're looking for franchisees that are invested in that and are thinking through that way. Like, I was thinking just the other day, like, what do I really enjoy when we're having like discovery day calls or meet the founder calls? What I enjoy the most is someone who's asking very good questions, because that shows that they are intent, that they've thought this through. They're not taking this lightly. This isn't a light thing. This isn't just a throwaway, oh, maybe I'll open a franchise. Like, it's a huge life decision for people. So we want people who value the weight of that, just like we do. It's important to us to find the right people, good people to work with, and people that understand the value that we're bringing as a franchisor, that we're bringing to the system, and that will, accept that, hey, yeah, we have certain brand standards. It's important that we all are aligned to those. If someone who's really wants to go out on their own or turn this thing into something else, that's not what we're looking for. But if they are willing to work hard and communicate with us and be collaborative, that's all they really need. They certainly don't need to be good at golf.
Yeah, that's true.
How do franchisees find members?
So, a number of different ways, right? I think the interesting thing with our model, because there's no staff, our marketing playbook looks a lot like a direct-to-consumer e-commerce brand. So most of our advertising is concentrated with Google and Meta, for example. We reach a lot of people on social media, or at the time they're searching for what we offer. I think one of the challenges with our model is you can't just kind of walk in and browse. You need to have a reservation to come in. And so a lot of what we can do, relying on the power of social media, is to show the experience visually before you arrive. And that's built into all of our, our email flows, and it's in the website and all of that. But I think we rely on, the way you'll see us in a market looks a lot like you'd be, anything else you might buy online in a typical e-commerce environment. So that's where a lot of it comes from. Now, our playbook also centers around getting involved in your community, partnering with local businesses. We talked about this already, but they're happy that you're there because you're not competing for customers. If anything, you're elevating their business. And so, we have a bunch of different channels, both digital and physical, that we encourage our franchisees to get involved with. And a lot of it just comes around building advanced demand or anticipation prior to your grand opening, so that you've already got kind of a captive audience of potential guests to let them know that when that now accepting reservations email goes out, you're booking your calendar on the first day.
There's a lot that we've
Nice.
done in like our marketing automations and targeting and retargeting people, sending them specific communications based on their purchase behavior or their browsing behavior on the website that we can do, so that after someone's come a couple times, we can say, hey, you seem to enjoy this. You've come a couple times this week. Did you know we have a membership? A lot of people don't know that because it's not our number one thing that we're always trying to sell. So we have a lot of people that they end up kind of laddering up. First day, maybe they got a promo code to come the first time. They come the first time, they have a great time. They book another time. Wow, yeah, like I really like this. Oh shoot, they have memberships. Well, let me look into that. And then they buy a membership, and then they're there often. So maybe they're taking a lesson later on or participating in our league. There's always something. We're always, introducing value to them. We're always
New
communicating the benefit of coming. It's not just like, oh, we have this cool place and here's what's in it. No, what is the effect on your life of being able to come play golf in 1 hour? Well, you have more time with your kids. You can do other things. You have time to do all the things. You don't have to give up on golf. So there's
no
a
compromise.
lot. Yeah, there's a lot that we do, even just to ladder people up to different products after they've tried it out, or even before.
Yeah. So what's the investment range to open a location, and how big is this kind of the standard footprint?
So it ranges. We recommend between 4 and 6 suites in our FDD. The minimum investment's about $330,000. We wouldn't recommend going down to 3 suites like we have for our first location. But 4 to 6 is likely that sweet spot. And that can range anywhere from, 2,300 square feet to 3,400 square feet in that range. Our first location, to give you an actual data point, is 1,600 square feet. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it could be 1 square foot smaller. And, our next location is 3,200 square feet. So almost exactly double the footprint.
Wow. Okay. What about training and support? What does that look like?
So a lot of it is automated, right? A lot of what we talked about the value that a franchisor can provide. Our proprietary tech that we've built, we call A9OS. It handles bookings, memberships, customer communication, access management, security and monitoring, reporting and analytics. All of that is in one single web app. So as a franchisee, I can access this on my phone at any point. I can lock and unlock doors. I can move reservations. I can block suites for myself. I can see what's going on in the facility. I can see how performance is going. So all of that it just works on the back end without a franchisee's involvement. The other thing we do is provide 24/7 customer support. So as an owner, you are not going to get that 3 a.m. Ping, hey, can you turn off my computer and turn it back on? So I think those are things that are kind of happening, in the background,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and that certainly sets us apart, but it also makes that's what really powers the kind of semi-passive operation.
Yeah, and then early on, after they've signed their lease and they're starting to execute on what needs to happen next, they're in that sort of design and planning phase. We have a training regimen where they will come on site with us, and we'll spend more intensive kind of one-on-one time or team one with them time to discuss the grand opening marketing plan. Because what we don't want someone to ramp up their business after they've opened. We want that ramp up to be beforehand, so that when they're open, they're full with customers. They've pre-sold memberships. If it's around a league time, they've got that going. So a lot of the training specifically around the business is about how do we market this? How are we attracting and retaining those customers?
And it's not just one time. I think that's important too. It's we talk about the self-service nature for our guests. We want that to be true for franchisees as well. So if you have any question about how something works or how something should look, that lives in our operations playbook, which is not like a 100-page PDF we just send you and say, good luck. This is a living, breathing digital experience with multimedia that guides you through everything. And so I think that's an important part. It's for the simple operation. It might be a day before you open, but a lot of it happens on an ongoing as needed basis too.
Yep.
Guys, how do you help out with the build out of the actual location?
Yeah. So we've partnered, we have a design firm that just happens to be based here locally around Cincinnati. They've worked on both of our locations. They've started to work with other franchisees. Early on, after our first location, we went through with them, and one, we value engineered everything. And two, we made a lot of design updates. There were a lot of like little design mistakes that we made the first time around. So when we were considering our second location, we said, hey, we're getting into franchising. We're opening up the second location. Let's do an audit of this entire space, especially inside the suite. Let's do an audit. Let's come up with 4 designs that will work for us, for franchisees. And then if they work with you or another architect, you can really just drag and drop these and update from there. So we've worked with them to set that, but not just that. It's all the other brand standards and materials that we're using, so that when we do construct somewhere in Charlotte, it will look and feel like it does here. Same for in Texas or Minneapolis or wherever that is. So we've worked with that. That's probably the biggest thing as far as that goes. And then we will meet with the franchisees. We will approve the plans. We will offer our 2 cents on the design as they go through that. At this point, I'm very comfortable looking at blueprints and construction drawings, and certainly open to asking questions if there's something I don't understand. But the firm that we've worked with, they make really good blueprints, very detailed, and
with some flexibility too, given the variability of space.
Yeah.
And the other part is, so we've got the design standards, but for us, site selection starts 24 to 48 hours after you sign an agreement. So we work with a national real estate partner who's been great.
Mm-hmm.
And they, within 5 days of signing an agreement, typically have a list of available sites in that site selection area. And we're already getting to work on crafting LOIs and then eventually leases. So we try to move as fast as the franchisee wants to move, but we have experts that are slotted in for all of these different things. So starting with site selection, then lease negotiation, your design drawings are in progress as you're negotiating the lease if you feel good about that. And so, I'd say that's what that early stage process looks like. And so far it has been validated with our franchisees that it's going as they would have hoped it would go.
Yep.
Great. How long does it take to do a build out?
It's about 12 weeks or so. Buffer a couple weeks here or there in case you run into any issues with inspections, but it's on its face, it's very simple. I mean, it can change if you're in a cold, dark shell and you got to pour concrete and put it in an HVAC. We'll add a few weeks for that, but for the most part, it's at least once the space is white box or demolished, it's really about framing, drywall, running the electrical, the finish. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but it's not crazy work. We're not dealing with a lot of plumbing. We're not, dealing with any hydraulic moving parts, anything like that. It's pretty straightforward interior retail construction.
On that construction, who helps out with the actual install of the simulators?
So we've got very documented plans so that you do not have to work with a designated simulator installer. Our GCs are perfectly capable of following those plans and implementing it to the brand specs. And how we got comfortable with that was Brett and I did it ourselves, so we know that it's
it's not hard.
A very qualified contractor is certainly more capable than we are, and we try to make it as easy as possible.
If you can mount a TV on a wall, you can install an entire golf simulator, even one that's built in. It looks more intensive maybe than it actually is. And any GC will certainly do an even better job than we have. So
and you guys,
just to be clear, we do not offer that service.
Yeah.
That's something Brett and I also do.
Well, and we have vendors that they offer that is an add-on. If they want a third party specifically to come out and do all that setup, they're more than welcome to do that. And we have partners in place just in case.
That's awesome. Where do you guys see the brand growing over the next 5 to 10 years?
The opportunity for golf in general is massive. The industry is enormous. Course supply is declining at a fairly alarming rate. And it kind of creates this great opportunity for indoor golf. We always say that we're not chasing a number of locations or a number of franchisees. We know that number is likely in the hundreds. That's not what we're chasing, though. We're trying to find the right people in the right markets that can be good stewards of the brand and communities that need this type of experience. So that's not intended to be a non-answer to your question, but I think that's what it will look like. Is across the country, Another Nine is synonymous with indoor golf, and it's designed to be everyone's first choice if I'm going to be playing inside.
And indoor golf is here to stay. If you look at the infrastructure of golf in the United States, like Ethan said, so many courses are being sold or they're going out of business. The land is too valuable. Most public courses are subsidized by local taxes, where the residents are saying, hey, why don't we build something that everyone can use and not just a small few can use? And at the same time, more people are playing than ever before coming out of COVID. And even after that, more people are playing golf. So this supply and demand curve just doesn't add up. And because it's such an infrastructural issue, new golf courses aren't really being made unless they're super premium, $300 green fees type places. And again, that's not accessible for common people. And the only solution that we can think of so far for that is indoor golf. So, some people, when they first hear this, they're like, oh yeah, that, maybe that's a fad, kind of like frozen yogurt maybe was, or escape rooms or something, at least in my head, those could be seen like that. And I think we're going to see in 10 years, this is part of the fabric of how people play golf in the United States, is they just play indoors. And I believe, I say maybe South Korea was a country that was a very early adopter to indoor golf. And that's what's become pretty commonplace there, is that it's part of how golf is played.
It's complementary to the routine. We're never going to create, that experience where it's a perfect fall day. Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect fall day. Yeah. And, it's not designed to replace outdoor golf, but it is designed to allow you to play a lot much more than you currently do.
Yeah. Or not, say spring starts up and like you're not rusty because you've been able to hit balls, all winter long. And even like on a more personal note, like I feel like so many people I've talked to, I talked to a man in his 60s and he's like, oh yeah, you know what? I used to play a lot of golf, but then I had kids, or then my career took off, or this or that. And they're like, I really wish I had gotten to do that more. And I don't want to think that in 30 years. I want to have been playing this whole time. I'm not very athletic anymore like I used to be. I'm not playing team sports or anything. Like this is my athletic activity, I think. So I want to keep it.
Yeah. You don't have to give it up.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, look, if anybody was interested in opening one of the franchises, where would they go?
So you can check us out on our website, another9.com. 9 is spelled out, NINE. There's a franchising link right at the top of the page. Fill out the contact form and we'll be in touch in truly a matter of minutes.
Awesome. Guys, I love the concept. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.